Hey guys, welcome to the Martial and Healing Arts channel. I'm Rafe Kelly, founder of Evolve Move Play. I'm extremely excited to be sponsoring this channel. Martial and healing arts have been key aspects of embodiment and self-cultivation for thousands of years. I have some of my best friends in the industry, Rory Miller, Matt Thornton, Edward Hines presenting here, and I'm really excited to share what they have to say with you guys. You're gonna love it. So Evolve Move Play is an ecology of practices of movement, mindfulness, nature connection, and community. And within the movement, we have a big emphasis on moving in nature and being able to do parkour. We also like to lift weights and throw things around, but there's a huge aspect of martial arts, and I've been training martial arts since I was 6 years old. So it's really exciting to be able to sponsor this channel in particular. If you're interested in my work, check out my talks on the main stage and the Movement Anatomy channel. If you can't get to either of those live, you can check us out at Rafe Kelly on Instagram, get all your awesome embodiment giveaways, and for now, just enjoy this amazing channel. It's gonna be an awesome show.
We've got Ziba Khan here. The session is Ayurveda, Surrender and Spirituality. Ziba is an Ayurvedic clinician, a meditation teacher, an energy healer, and a speaker who has worked all over the world. She is a professor in communications, as well as trained and certified in Ayurvedic sciences. And she believes strongly in building resilience so that when we are faced with challenges, we can weather the storm. So over to you, Ziba.
Thank you so much, Oscar, and thank you so much for joining me in this experience. My name is Ziba Khan, and I'm coming to you live from the lovely island of Singapore, and I honor all of you and appreciate very much this opportunity to be with you. Today, we're going to be talking about the teachings of spirituality and surrender that are at the heart of Ayurveda. And we'll also discuss their confluence with all the great religions and ancient traditions of the world. So I'd like to ask you right now, where does real strength come from? As I personally contemplated this question, I remembered a walk that I once took on the streets of Toronto years ago. It was winter, and as you know, winter freezes everything over, and they sprinkle salt to clear the snow and kill many plants in that process. But as I walked along the sidewalk, I could see a little yellow flower bursting its way through the concrete. And it took me a minute to realize what I was witnessing. That this little flower was delicate and beautiful and fragile, but it could also break through concrete, something that I know I couldn't do. But how was it doing this? And what if the flower knew something that I didn't? And then I realized that this flower was simply growing. Despite the bitterly cold winter and all the salt and on the concrete, it chose to grow and shatter all perceived obstacles in its way. And that's when I learned that this is where real strength comes from growth. So we can choose to resist and fight, or we can choose to surrender to the knowing that the universe is on our side and shatter perceived obstacles and limiting beliefs. As Viktor Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So today we're going to be looking at techniques and teachings from Ayurveda and the world's major religions and ancient traditions. We're going to be looking specifically at how strength comes from growth, the value of surrendering to a higher power, and the role of love and devotion in spiritual healing. So I want to begin our time together today by really giving gratitude for all the men and women, seen and unseen, known and unknown, who have come before us to make this very moment possible for us. I'd like to invite them into the space right now and give deep gratitude for each and every one of them. Ayurveda means the science of life, and it was developed over 5,000 years ago in India. And it teaches us that through studying different mind and body types, that we can procure a roadmap to personalized health. So what Ayurveda does is it teaches us that there is a holistic approach to healing. And we can improve our health on 5 different levels of our being. We're not just physical being. Ayurveda looks at all of us. It's a universal healing modality, and it is not tethered to any particular religion. It's for everyone of any faith, of any spiritual practice, who's simply interested in healing the mind, body, emotions, and spirit. So Ayurveda teaches us that we have 5 layers to our entire being. We've got the Annamaya Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha, the Manomaya Kosha, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, and we finally have the Anandamaya Kosha. Now, it all sounds really fancy and it's Sanskrit, but essentially what these 5 layers are our physical body, our life force energy, our thoughts and our feelings, our intuitive knowing, and our connection to a higher consciousness. And finally, Anandamaya Kosha, which is our bliss layer. And that's really where we're going to be taking our deep dive today, if you will, is into that bliss level and seeing how we can connect to a higher consciousness and really become more comfortable in residing in that bliss sheath. So Anandamaya Kosha is this bliss level. And we know that we're blissed out when we're feeling positive, we're feeling energetic, we're feeling satisfied. We've got a peace of mind that seems to be a constant no matter what's going on above it, right? It's like Pema Chodron says, we are the sky, everything else is just the weather. So no matter what's going on outside and out there, we feel a sense of safety and comfort and a deep knowing and connection at our core that we are inherently okay, that all is good right here, right now, in this moment. And that on a very fundamental level, we truly have all that we need. And when we are in the state of Anandamaya, when we feel Anand or bliss, we feel that we're also in a flow, that the energy of the universe is really easy for us to tap into. And we experience synchronicity in our life. We think of something, we're seeking a solution, and voila, it just shows up in front of us. It appears to be magic, when in actuality, we've manifested it because we're vibrating on a cosmic level and at the same frequency of that which we're seeking to manifest. Now, why is it important to surrender to a higher power outside of us? Very simply, because it makes us stronger. Some people have come to me, and I am an Ayurvedic clinician, and I see clients from all different faiths with all kinds of spiritual practices. And they ask me, Ziba, do I need to believe in God? Or Ziba, is this only going to work if I'm Hindu? And the answer is no. Some people are very hesitant to practice Ayurveda because they're misguided by this belief that Ayurveda is affiliated with a particular religion, namely Hinduism. But Ayurveda and healing is not inherently part of any religion. While Ayurveda does definitely encourage a connection to a divine being, it never ever outlines what this connection should look like, and it never addresses what we should call this higher power. So everyone's relationship with this divine source will look different depending on what that person's individual beliefs are. And that's fine within the healing modality of Ayurveda. It's very accepting and very inclusive. Now, many studies on resilience have found that people who are able to endure trauma or come out of harrowing experiences do really well when they adhere to strong philosophies or to spiritual practices, because they're able to infuse their undesirable experience with a sense of purpose so that they can feel stronger in the knowing that their suffering was not meaningless and for no reason whatsoever. Many faith traditions, including Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all incorporate ingredients for resilience into their teachings. And they talk about parenting, they'll talk about role modeling, they'll talk about the value of community, how to be in communion with others, and how to develop a community. And all of these philosophies and religions also teach us about self-regulation and the value of a greater good. So, a connection to the divine is very, very important because it helps us to make sense of our experiences, both desirable experiences as well as undesirable experiences. And while we're going through them, through the undesirable ones, it helps to keep us calm. So, the takeaway is ultimately this: that a connection to something greater than oneself, whether it's a spiritual practice, it's a religion, or it's a sense of purpose, this will allow us to deal with any kind of crises with the wisdom of eternity. And this connection can be purely spiritual and not religious in any way. So for the purposes of today's talk, I'd like to define the terms religion and spirituality. So, religion is an institutionalized set of beliefs and practices in the service and worship of God. Spirituality, on the other hand, is the way we experience our connectedness to a higher power. So, at its core, religion is about faith, acceptance, surrender to the divine. And spirituality is also about faith in the divine, but it leans on direct experiences of the soul with the divine. You know something because you've experienced it rather than knowing it simply because you've been told about it. So that's really the difference, the way that I'm using these two words today between religion and spirituality. So I was thinking earlier today, what happens when we don't surrender to a higher power? And what came to me upon my reflection is that when we don't surrender, we tend to fall into this downward spiral of regrets, resentments, anxiety, fear, depression. We feel tormented. And we begin these ruminating thoughts of what ifs. What if I had done that? What if I had not had said that? What if I did that? What if I didn't do that? And it becomes this game ultimately of self-torture, of masochism, and we stress ourselves out. This over time leads to physical and mental dis-ease. And we've all experienced this kind of relentless torment that accompanies holding on to grievances, right? We can all remember something someone did to us 20 years ago, and we're still holding on to that. But the question is, for what? Why are we holding on to these grievances? If I've already suffered because of something that someone else said or did, then I'm increasing my suffering by playing that tape over and over again in my mind. So, wouldn't it be better to reflect on the event, to reflect on what happened, and incorporate that new learning into my life and celebrate how I've grown? The most basic fact of life is this: we cannot control many, if any, of the circumstances that we experience in our lifetime. The only control that we really have is the choice of how to respond to the stings and to the arrows that are sure to assault us along the way. Meeting obstacles is an inevitable part of life, and it's very important to our growth curriculum here on planet Earth. And there's actually a Buddhist parable that speaks to this reality. It doesn't matter who shot the poisoned arrow. Ruminating about it won't get you anywhere but dead. The simple fact is that when we've been shot, the arrow needs to come out, right? That's what we need to do. We get to choose if we shoot ourselves a second time and continue to suffer by holding on to the past. Or we can choose to let go of that grievance of being shot and come back to the present and pull that arrow out. So, what is surrender and what does it mean to surrender? When most people hear the word surrender, they think of weakness. They think of giving up, of losing, being humiliated, allowing ourselves to be controlled. But in actuality, surrender is not something that happens when we fail. The word holds real strength. And when used in a spiritual context, surrender means to let go and to stop struggling against what is. Now, there's a distinct difference between giving up and letting go. Letting go happens when we stop forcing solutions on situations that we cannot control, and instead, we shift to a place of having trust and having faith that there is a divine force taking care of everything in a perfectly orchestrated manner. We surrender our egoic self with a small s to our self with a capital S, to our soul. Now, this is not weakness, it's not resignation. And while the typical concept of surrender is one of contraction, when you look at the world's ancient traditions and religions and what they teach about surrender, surrender is actually a state of expansion. And Sufism in particular teaches us that the more we surrender, the more our awareness expands. And this can only come when we live with an awareness that stems from love. So, in actuality, one of the most evolved and mature things that you can do as an adult is to surrender to something greater than yourself. To not resist the flow of life means to have absolute freedom in how you live. because your happiness is no longer dependent on anything external or outside of you. And that is where you find your bliss. And there's great power in surrendering. You see, no matter what they call it, all the great religions and wisdom traditions point to the same supreme goal. And that is to die before you die. To die to your ego before you physically die, so that you can live more fully in the here and now. It's nirvana to the Buddhists, moksha to the Hindus. Jesus called it entering the kingdom of heaven within. To Jewish mystics, it's the return to the promised land. To the Sufis, it's union with the beloved. The 14th century Persian Sufi poet Shamsuddin Hafez wrote, "Everyone, drunk or sober, seeks the beloved, and every place, mosque or church, is the house of love." Sufis believe that at the very core of our being is a spark of purity, of perfection, of divinity. And when we let go of our small egoic self, we unite with the divine, and this brings deep peace within us. So the next question naturally is, so who do I surrender to? And this can be a difficult question for many people on a spiritual path. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. We have so many choices, be it Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Taoism, animism, whatever it might be. Choose a path that resonates with you. I love this quote by George Harrison of the Beatles. He said, "All religions are branches of one big tree. It doesn't matter what you call him, just as long as you call." So how do we call? So here we are. We know that we want to surrender to a divine power, and we appreciate and acknowledge the value of surrender. But then how do we go about surrendering? What do we do? Meditation and prayer. Meditation is an act of surrender, and it's one of the most powerful tools that you will have on your spiritual journey. By turning your awareness away from daily activities that can sometimes be mundane, we settle into quieter and quieter levels of the mind, and we finally tap into that Anandamaya Kosha, that bliss sheath, that bliss level. And we reconnect to our true essential self. We tap into and access our soul. We shed all these layers of thoughts and feelings, anxiety and fears. We let go of any physical discomfort. And we're really operating at that point on a soul level. And that's when we begin to experience true freedom and bliss. Now, it's said that prayer is speaking to God, whereas meditation is listening to God. And we have a tendency of praying and asking God for things. We tend to come from this place of ego when we pray. And oftentimes we'll pray and kind of tell God, or whatever you'd like to call this higher being. We tend to instruct this higher being on what we think is good for us, on what we think we should receive, on what we think our life should look like. But when we're able to surrender to this higher power, we realize that maybe we don't truly know what is in our best interest. Maybe if we're able to open up and be more expansive, that what we want to manifest in our life will come to us in a form that we did not expect it to. So the exterior might not look like we had envisioned that it would, but really within, it is giving us the opportunity and the experience that we had been seeking all along. So it's important that when we pray, we try as best as we can to refrain from asking for specific things and exactly what it should look like, and instead be able to surrender to a plan that this higher being that has created the universe has for us. It reminds me of the rapper Drake's song, God's Plan, where he talks about how, again, God has this greater plan for us that we don't necessarily know how it'll pan out. But if we surrender in this moment, we will be met with goodness and with inner peace and with success, however that might look like to you, because you have faith and you have trust the universe ultimately has your back. So in the Sufi tradition, which is the mystical sect of Islam, there is a path of love and devotion that's very strongly emphasized, because love and devotion are the means to attaining union with God as taught by Sufism. And when you're able to really, really immerse yourself in love, it's everywhere, and it's in everything that you do, and it's everywhere that you go. You see it in everyone. And there's an essence of that love, no matter who you're with and no matter what you're doing. At the same time that we are so in love with this higher power and with the world and with other people, we need to also set aside time each day for meditation, for contemplation of the divine, and awaken our heart and mind. Surrendering is not a sense of helplessness and abandoning our hopes and dreams. Rather, it's knowing and having this deep faith and trust that the universe is also seeking for you what you are seeking. And the universe is actually on the verge of delivering it to you as well. So even though we surrender, we must continue to hope and dream and plant the seeds of manifestation so that we can take our next right step, and so that we can create what we want to experience in the world, rather than just sitting back and expecting it to magically come to us without any effort on our part. So we must never ever confuse surrender with laziness or helplessness, because the world is not something that's happening to us. We are active participants in it. At the same time, we need to practice non-attachment to our actions. So often in life, we can tend to the causes, but we cannot control the outcomes of what we want. As the brilliant psychologist, Dr. Rick Hanson reminds us, you can water a fruit tree, but you can't make it give you an apple. But no matter what happens, you know that you've tried your best. And when we relax to the attachment that we have to results, we simply worry less about what's happening, and we suffer less, even if they don't happen, because we've been able to surrender the outcomes to a higher being, to a higher power, knowing that he, she, or however you want to address this higher power is actually the sole source of all creation. So we learn to recognize all of life essentially as spiritual. We serve humanity in everything that we see and do. And when we live like this, we can really experience a deep sense of inner peace and bliss. We're in total surrender. When we live like this, we're in that state of Anandamaya Kosha, and we have nothing left to worry about, because we trust that the universe is a benevolent place. Albert Einstein once said, the most important decision that we can make is whether we believe that the universe is a friendly place or a hostile place. He was essentially asking us to examine the beginning point, our perception and our attitude, because our quality of life is intertwined with our thoughts. Our quality of life is intertwined with our perceptions, our attitudes, our feelings, and our unique filters in how we process what we see and sense and experience. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote these beautiful lines that I'd like to share with you. Love came and made me empty. Love came and it filled me with the beloved. It became the blood in my veins. It became my arms and legs. It became everything. Now all I have is a name. The rest belongs to the beloved. So as we take these last few minutes to wrap up the talk and before we go into our meditation, we remember that strength comes from growth. That in order to attain peace and bliss in this lifetime, we must surrender. And that the path of love and devotion unites us with a higher power in this present moment. Like that yellow flower on the sidewalk in Toronto, we remember that surrender is not giving up. It's the understanding that we will grow by first accepting things as they are and acknowledging that we are exactly where we're supposed to be. We realize that strength does not have to be a hard force. It can be flexible and soft, like water. Water cannot be bruised or broken, and it literally goes with the flow. When you surrender, you let go of pre-programmed conditioning and open up to the world of infinite possibilities. You remember that all we have is this sacred, precious, present moment. And you heal. You heal yourself. I'd like to share with you a quote from Nkosi Johnson, who was a South African boy who was born HIV positive and died at the age of 12. He very poignantly said, "Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place where you are." This is your starting point. Take challenges as they come and take comfort in the fact that you have the power to accept, to surrender, and to grow. Be the light amidst that apparent darkness. The world needs people whose minds are clear, confident, and connected to a higher power. We have meditated, we have prayed, we've done yoga, we've sat at the feet of gurus, we've aligned our chakras, we've done cleanses, we've done detoxes. Now is the time to put all of that training into action. We must apply what we know and live the teachings instead of just talking about them. This is our showtime, collectively as humanity. Let us practice singularity. Let us go back to the source, to our moment of origin. Let's stay focused on and grateful for what really matters in this life. I would love to invite you now to take a few minutes to practice surrendering with me through a guided meditation. So I invite you to sit comfortably, to close your eyes, allowing your eyelids to gently float closed. And together, let's take a long, slow inhale, deep breath in, and gently release. Again, inhale and release. And now just allow your breath to flow in and to gently flow back out. There are two components to surrender: trust and acceptance. There's a sacred affirmation that's been uttered for thousands of years to awaken trust, and it's based on a Persian folklore. The 12th century Persian Sufi poet Attad of Nishapur chronicled the story when he cited an ancient monarch in need of some miraculous item that would lift his queen's depression. The legend tells us that an oracle was summoned secretly and told about this predicament, and then dispatched on a mission to solve this quandary. The sage traveled far and wide, seeking insights from sorcerers, magicians, holy men. And in the end, he found a mystical jeweler who crafted a ring inscribed with the words, "This too shall pass." The king was very pleased with the result because the ring instantly turned the sadness of the queen into happiness, but only temporarily. It also reminded them both of the impermanence of life, and that this newly acquired state of happiness would one day pass as well. Take a long, slow, deep breath in through the nose and let it go. Life is filled with peaks and valleys, and throughout any day we will be at a point where we are at the low part of our emotional capacity. And when we find ourselves in those situations, when we receive news that darkens our heart, that makes us sad, that makes us want to give up, we can remember the wisdom of the ancient teaching, "This too shall pass." This mantra is deeply reassuring when we find ourselves stuck, unwilling to go on, fearful that the next moment will be worse than this moment. It can reassure us tremendously. Continue to watch your breath as it moves in and gently moves back out. Accept that this moment is perfect and whole and pure and exactly how it's supposed to be. Receive the universe with each inhale and flow it back out. Trust in the divine and trust that the universe will deliver you to exactly where you need to be. Allow all of the gifts of the universe to flow into you. When we trust in the universe, we are in total surrender. Now let's take this meditation deeper. Let's use the mantra, "This too shall pass. Say it aloud with me. This too shall pass. And now whisper it. This too shall pass. And now repeat it to yourself silently, over and over and over again. We'll take a few moments. Sit comfortably with your eyes closed and just repeat this mantra silently to yourself. This too shall pass. Allow it to be effortless. There's no need to force it or to concentrate. If your mind wanders, ever so gently, bring it back to the mantra. I'll watch the time, and when you hear my voice, just sit gently with your eyes closed. So let's begin. Sit gently with your eyes closed. You can stop repeating the mantra now and just let the stillness and the silence and the bliss settle in. And now take a long, slow, deep breath in and gently let that go. One more time, long, slow, deep breath in and release. And as you move throughout your life, know that you are always stronger in your vulnerability. You're always more courageous in your trust. And you are always more empowered in your ability to choose. When it feels comfortable, you can briskly rub your palms together to generate heat. Your palms over your eyes without touching your eyelids, and just allow that warmth to transfer from your palms to your eye sockets. Keeping your hands where they are, gently blink your eyes open a few times. Give them a moment to adjust to the light. Whenever you're comfortable, gently remove your hands from your face and gradually open your eyes. I wish you all an amazing day filled with love, health, and gratitude. It's truly been a celebration for me to be with you today, and I look forward to connecting with you again. I honor the divine light in you that's also in me. And when you're in that space, and I'm in that space, we are one. Namaste.
Well, thank you so much, Ziba. That was a really lovely talk.
Thank you, Oscar.
Are you okay for a question? We've got a question here from Sham.
Absolutely, yes.
They've asked, would you say we shouldn't pray and ask for healing? I've also asked to be taught and guided to be the best I can. Do you think asking this is okay?
Now this question comes to us from Sham. Is that correct, Oscar?
Correct.
Sham, thank you so much for your question. I think that it's absolutely fine to ask for healing. And I think that in asking for healing, it gives us a sense of peace. I think that what we should be mindful of is what that healing looks like, because as uncomfortable as mental and emotional and physical disease can be, there are also experiences that can propel us into growth. And saying that, I don't mean to minimize at all what you are going through. And I have a lot of compassion and empathy for what you are going through, Sham. And I do firmly believe that you should pray for healing, but simply be mindful of how you expect that healing to come to you, because it can take various forms. And sometimes it's delivered to us, but we're unable to see it for a while because it's coming to us in a form that's different from how we imagined it would be.
Right, Sham says thank you.
Thank you.
And there's a number of people who've also just said namaste and thank you as well in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. To everyone who's been with me today, it's truly an honor to be here, truly.
Thank you so much. So we're just going to have some ending announcements now, and then we'll come back to Ziba for her top tip for embodiment. So thank you again, Ziba. Just so you guys know that if you want to continue to connect with people online who've either been in this session or in other sessions, you can do that via the Facebook groups. And you can also do that via the coffee breaks, which are a bit more interactive, where you can talk a bit about what you've been experiencing, and you can hear from others about what they've been experiencing and what might be interesting for you to see as well. We've got links for the Facebook groups and portal, the coffee breaks in the chat. And now there's also a chance to buy this library. You can have all of the sessions or just a set of sessions from a particular channel for yourself to take time to digest and process them in your own time. When you buy the sessions, you get learning lists, which give you a logical and progressive way of working through the material. You also get audio-only formats and notes, which give you a chance to do some processing of the information in a different way. And if you buy them now before the conference ends, you get them at 50% off, which is a great deal. It's a big thank you to the people who have worked so hard to make sure this can happen. And it's also the way that we're able to make this free while it's happening for people who won't be able to afford the sessions themselves. So thanks very much again, Ziba, for coming and spending some time with us and talking about surrender. What's your top tip for embodiment for the channel?
My top tip would be the breath. It is the breath, as we are taught in yoga and Ayurveda, that carries our prana, our life force energy. The moment we stop breathing, our physical body ceases to exist. So no matter what we are going through on the outside, whenever we feel any sense of turmoil, discomfort, dis-ease, connect back to your breath. You'll find that you're either holding it or it's very short and shallow. And the moment that you can begin controlling your breath, and what you really want to aim for to calm down is to have your exhalation be double your inhalation. So if you inhale for a count of 2, exhale for a count of 4. And try to deepen those breaths, and you will find a sense of deep inner peace that washes over you.
Great. Thanks so much, Ziba.
Thank you, Oscar.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you at the next session.
We have 10 more minutes. Don't you want to take some more questions?
We can do. Are you all right to take more questions, Ziba?
I am. Yeah, I do have a few more minutes.
Some more questions come in while we were just wrapping up there. We've got Sessa, who is saying, I reconnected only very recently to my spirituality, but I find it hard to surrender and trust. I've been facing some personal problems for the past 2 years, and I try to keep confident, but I lose hope sometimes. Do you have any thoughts on that? How to keep trusting and surrendering?
Oh, goodness, that's a tough one. What comes to mind is to really focus on expanding. Oftentimes, when we feel small and we tend to feel like we're completely immersed in our own problems, we also tend mentally to shrink. And it's not that we become selfish or self-absorbed, but honestly, we have this huge problem that's consuming us. And in the process of focusing on that problem, we tend to stop expanding outwards. And so, Sessa, what would be very helpful is to do a meditation where you simply sit comfortably and quietly and begin on your breath. And when you're able to get into a good routine of focusing on your breath, again, you want to have that exhalation be double your inhalation, because you'll start to release all of your good hormones, if you will, your good neurotransmitters. You'll start to feel good and begin working towards that Anandamaya Korsha phase, towards that bliss phase. Once you're able to kind of master your breath, even if it's for a few minutes, then with each inhale, you want to feel the love and the flow of the universe coming in to support you. And on the exhale, focus on expansion, outward expansion. Feel yourself and your bubble, your energetic bubble, expanding forward, back, up, and down. And that way you will feel yourself expanding, but within that expansion, you will also feel safe and protected. And expand that bubble out only as much as is comfortable to you. And on any given day, on any given moment, the size of that bubble will vary depending on how happy or upset you might be feeling. And that's okay. So just focus, my dear, on expanding your sense of awareness and soul, love and support from the universe. Because we all have our valleys and we all have our peaks. And as we know, healing, unfortunately, is not this linear process, but it's jagged. So just stick with it. And overall, you want to have this upward trend of healing and peace.
Great, thanks so much. So let us know if that was helpful for you, Sasa. We've also got Apple here, who is saying it would be great to start the kids early. Do you have a way of sharing it with them that they will understand? And Sasa says thank you.
You're welcome, Sessa. And for you, Apple, I'm actually a mother. And so I speak from experience when I say I began my little one with a chakra alignment meditation. And it's engaging. They can chant out loud and they learn about the energy centers along their spine. So we have these 7 chakras, these 7 energy centers that stem from our root all the way to our crown. And this also helps them with their posture. So they sit upright and they're a lot more mindful of the movement of energy and flow in their physical body. And you can simply, my dear, begin teaching them the mantras that correspond to each of the 7 chakras. And when they say them out loud, it's engaging for them so they don't get bored and they don't get slumped over. And you can teach them about the colors that are associated or affiliated with each of the chakras. And, you know, the 7 chakras overall are the 7 colors of the rainbow. So they also find that very intriguing, you know, that we have these colors in our bodies too. And you can teach them how they correspond to the different organs and to different energy centers, like our 3rd chakra, the Manipura, is our solar plexus, and it's yellow. And it's, you know, the mantra in English is I do. So it's our seat of transformation. It's our powerhouse of get it done, go out there, manifest it. And some kids find it really, really cool. The 5th chakra, the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra, corresponds to the English mantra, I express or I communicate. And so sometimes when they get really rowdy, you can tell them, okay, your 5th chakra is out of balance. You know, you're talking too much and you're not listening enough. And that can help them to kind of see how their spiritual body is manifesting outward in our physical world. So I've personally found that to be a lot of fun, to go with those 7 chakras. And if you go to my website, zibahealing.com, you can actually shoot me an email and I will gladly send you a meditation that you can do with children.
Great, thank you. Apple says thank you for being so specific with the tips. You make it so easy and fun. I'm excited. I can't wait to start.
Oh, I'm excited for you. And your little ones are so blessed to be having a parent who's just so into this, you know, right off the bat, rather than having it be something that they're trying to get into at age 45 for the first time.
Yeah.
Right? Fantastic life tools to have.
Great, thank you so much. I'm afraid we're going to have to close it now because we're coming up to the last moments of the session. So again, thank you so much, Ziba, for all your knowledge and bringing your experience into this session and for answering the questions with so much engagement. So thank you all again for being part of this session. Do go to the Facebook groups and the coffee breaks and enjoy unpacking this and sharing this with other people or people in this session. And again, if you have a chance to buy the libraries so that you can keep them and digest them and have them to experience in your own time, then welcome you to do that as well. Thank you so much, Ziba, and bye everyone.
Thank you so much, Ziba, for your wisdom.
You.
Your lovely, lovely voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
This too shall pass.
Absolutely. You too, my dear. Thank you both.
Bye.
Bye-bye.